Welcome to this short video about Ambition's approach to ITT. In this session, we're going to explore some of the key design decisions that we've made on our ITT program. Our program differs from existing teacher training programs in a number of ways, and we want everyone working with us to really understand why we've made these decisions. This video is just over 20 minutes in length. I want to give you a moment now to read the aims of today's session. So we're going to be talking today about Ambition's approach to ITT. And I think a really useful place to start is by asking the question, why do we care about teacher training? Why have we decided to enter the ITT market? Well, like all of you, we care deeply about the recruitment and retention of a diverse teacher workforce. We believe that by designing the highest quality teacher training and working with delivery partners in teacher training cold spots, we can make a genuine difference, getting great teachers into the schools that need them most. We also have a huge amount of experience in designing effective professional development for teachers. Over a third of state-funded schools have teachers and leaders who are developing with us, meaning that we work with more educators than any other professional development provider. Because of this, we felt well placed to design something truly positive for the sector. So let's talk a bit more about our journey into the world of ITT. At Ambition, we have a large team of ex-teachers. These are the people who've been involved in the design of our ITT program. As well as having school experience, many have also worked in ITT, setting up and running skits and working in university teacher training. Our team started their design journey by looking at existing teacher training routes. What best practice already existed, and what did we see as some of the problems or challenges with some routes into teaching? One problem that we identified was around the mixed messages that trainees often receive from the different people in school who support them. Trainees are often told different things by tutors and in-school mentors about how to get better, and sometimes the advice they are given is contradictory. Despite these colleagues having the trainees' best interests in mind and wanting to provide support, this approach can sometimes leave trainees feeling confused and overloaded. We also found that a disconnect sometimes exists between the theory a trainee is learning and their school-based practice. Often trainees struggle to apply theoretical knowledge to what's happening in their classroom. And this has been written about extensively by authors such as Corthagen and Grossman et al. Ofsted have also commented explicitly about the lack of coherence in the experienced curriculum that exists on some teacher training programs. And this links to my next point. We found that many ITT programs can fail to bring about changes in trainees' practice, even when their knowledge increases substantially. And Corthagen calls this the knowing-doing gap. Others call it the problem of enactment. And in fact, the difficulties of turning knowledge into behavioural change in the classroom are so profound for novices that many trainee teachers are likely to default to the manner in which they were taught at school rather than the manner in which they were trained, often without realising the contradiction. And finally, we noted a lack of subject specificity in some teacher training courses, particularly those that were school-centred. And this is something that Ofsted has also commented upon. If lots of training is delivered through generic sessions, trainees may experience issues with transfer. Cognitive science, particularly the work of Daniel Willingham, tells us that a lot of knowledge is remarkably inflexible when we first learn it. That means we find it very difficult to transfer it into a new context or domain. So a trainee can attend a lecture on the general principles of teaching and learning, but applying what they've learned in their subject context is often very difficult, and things can go wrong during this transfer. Misconceptions can develop, inaccuracies can arise, and trainees may not see the impact they intended to have. So our design process really started by thinking deeply about these challenges. And we want you to understand how we think our program can help to overcome them. So let's look now at some of the key features of our course. You'll see some of these here on the screen, and I'll give you a moment to read them. I'm going to be talking through these features one by one, explaining what they will look like in practice and why we've made the decision to design our course in this way. Firstly, I'm going to be talking about our placement structure. We very consciously decided that we would like trainees to spend the majority of the year in one main placement school. But what exactly will this look like in practice? Well, this diagram shows the structure of a trainee's year. The trainee will start their course with a 5-day induction conference. Straight after that, they will start their main placement in their main placement school. And although there will be days that the trainee is not at this school, for instance, they may have a weekly day release to attend professional and subject studies, they will be in this school for most of the year, right from the start of early September through to the end of the course in summer term. You'll see from this diagram that our second school placement, which takes place in term 3, is shorter than on a typical PGCE course. This allows trainees to spend that valuable time in a different context while also having the majority of training take place in their one main placement school. We recommend that the second school placement is between 10 and 15 days, although this may vary slightly by partner. So let's have a think about why we've made the decision to design our placement structure like this. Firstly, we wanted to design a training course that worked both for trainees and for the schools and trusts involved in their training. Although there are some benefits to a more traditional A-B placement model, often in this structure, trainees are just starting to find their feet and adjust to the culture of a school before finding that their placement is over and they have to start the whole process again. We feel strongly that having one main placement school instead of 2 placements of similar lengths gives trainees the time they need to develop strong relationships with the staff and students they work with. Our model allows trainees to really embed themselves into school life, to feel like a proper member of staff rather than a visitor. And because trainees will stay in one school for most of the year, schools can induct them into their values and culture. And we hope that this means that trainees are likely to stay at their schools into their ECT year and beyond. And we're hoping because of this, our teacher training course will be a great recruitment tool. Again, we want our training course to be something that works for both trainees and for schools. Okay, now let's move on to the next important feature of our course. And that is our embedded PGCE. That means that PGCE content is fully integrated into a trainee's weekly experience. We've worked hard to make sure the academic content of the course never feels like an add-on. And to understand our embedded PGCE, it's useful to go over the basics here. Most trainees will achieve 2 qualifications at the end of our course: Qualified Teacher Status, QTS, and a Postgraduate Certificate in Education, PGCE. As an accredited provider, Ambition Institute will award QTS. We have partnered with Liverpool Hope University, who will award the PGCE, the academic qualification associated with our programme. Now, on many other training routes, trainee teachers will attend lectures with a university academic who teaches them the academic theory of teaching and supports them to complete academic assignments. In this model, trainees are exposed to high levels of academic rigour, but this academic study can feel quite separate from the day-to-day learning trainees are doing in schools. We've designed our course to look a little bit different. Let's have a look at how. This graphic shows the training a trainee will engage with each week. This is just an overview, and we'll go into more detail on each of these components in other training videos. This graphic shows that each week trainees will focus on a particular module. For example, the module for the week might be effective explanations. Trainees will start the week by engaging in self-study. They will then attend a clinic run by an expert facilitator. Now, academic PGCE content will be delivered in every one of these studies and in every clinic. In every study, trainees will be exposed to challenging educational research. Each study also includes compulsory academic reading and an extensive reading list for those who want to do more. This means that when trainees get to October, when they have to start thinking about their first PGCE assignment, that they will already have done a lot of the hard thinking in their weekly studies and clinics. And even more importantly, they will have discussed these academic ideas with their mentors in weekly meetings, and more about this later. We want trainees to be fluent in the academic expectations of their discipline. We want them to have time to explore how research interlinks with theory, but we do not want this academic content to feel like a separate course. Okay, let's move on now to the next important feature of our course. Our course has got a high degree of subject specificity. In fact, 50% of training will always be in and through subjects at both primary and secondary. And this is something that is unusual for school-based training routes. But what exactly does this look like in practice? Well, let's take a look at secondary first. At secondary, we want trainees to develop their subject expertise through taught subject clinics and also through subject-specific mentoring. Each trainee will have a mentor who is an expert in their subject. Trainees will engage with 17 subject studies modules across the year, and these are explored through studies and clinics. Often trainees will encounter an important teaching principle for the first time in their subject studies module. This reduces the risk of misconceptions happening during that process of transfer that I mentioned before. For example, at secondary, the first time a trainee encounters powerful ideas around explanation is actually through the lens of their subject. And this really allows them to develop that evidence-informed approach to subject development. But what does this look like at primary? Primary trainees will engage with 29 subject studies modules across the year. This will allow them to do at least 50% of their training through the lens of subjects. You'll notice that this is considerably more than at secondary. This is because at primary, trainees have to develop a degree of mastery in a wide range of national curriculum subjects. In each of these subject modules, trainees will develop foundational subject knowledge. It's also important to note that learning in subject plays an important role in professional studies modules as well. And within these, pedagogical strategies such as modelling are exemplified through a range of primary subjects at both key stages. This ensures trainees understand how this critical knowledge transfers across the whole primary curriculum. And we're hoping that by dedicating this amount of time to learning in subjects, trainees will be confident to teach across the curriculum. Of course, our programme is designed to ensure that teachers develop knowledge of subject and pedagogy, but theoretical knowledge needs to be applied to action and behaviours, which brings me on to the next important feature of our course. Lots of deliberate practice. Now, deliberate practice is at the heart of our training experience, and this is something that may potentially be quite different from other ITT programmes that you've worked on. On our programme, trainees will be doing deliberate practice individually or in groups several times a week. It's actually part of their weekly diet of learning. But what exactly is deliberate practice? We want to make sure that we all have a shared common understanding here. Don't worry at all if you're not familiar with this term. It will be explored in a lot more depth during your facilitator conference. The term deliberate practice first came from Anders Ericsson, a Swedish psychologist, and it did not initially have its roots in education. Many of his ideas have, however, been adopted by educationalists, including ambition. Now, Ericsson describes deliberate practice as a type of practice which is a highly structured activity, the explicit goal of which is to improve performance. For us, this means repeated rounds of practice of those really small granular skills, followed by expert feedback from a coach. All of this takes place in a low-stakes, safe environment, often out of the classroom. And on our course, trainees will do deliberate practice in every clinic and in every mentor meeting. They will also attend deliberate practice clinics in their schools. And in these sessions, trainees will practice the performative and task-based elements of teaching. Trainees will regularly practice in a classroom with no students in it, This means that their practice is not entirely authentic in terms of either audience or execution, but it's close enough to be meaningful. And we think this is powerful because it really focuses trainees' attention on the key aspects of practice that may be difficult for a novice. It also creates that feeling of safety that, yeah, it's okay to get it wrong and have another go. But what specific problem does all this deliberate practice tackle? So as I've mentioned earlier, many trainees struggle to close that knowing-doing gap. They know more, but struggle to translate this additional knowledge into behaviour change in the classroom. Now, we believe, as per Ball and Fasani, that teaching is both unnatural and intricate work. Unnatural in that teachers perform many tasks that are counterintuitive, e.g. asking questions that we already know the answer to, and intricate in that each episode of instruction comprises of many moves, many of them invisible to a casual observer. Now, we believe that those repeated rounds of practice of those small granular skills in a low-stakes environment is the very best way to help trainees learn how to enact this unnatural and intricate work. We also know that teaching is highly conducive to habit formation, and this is an insight discussed by Hobbes et al. In their 2020 paper. Deliberate practice and the other elements of this course, such as instructional coaching, are likely to increase automaticity of teaching skills and lead to positive habit formation just at the right time in a teacher's career, i.e. before those bad habits have had a chance to get ingrained. Okay, so let's look now at the final important feature of our course, and that is aligned weekly components. Now, to understand how our weekly components are aligned, you'll need to understand a bit more about the structure of the course. I've mentioned already that each week trainees will be working on a particular module. For example, the module for a week might be on effective explanations. Trainees will start the week by engaging in a self-study module, and in this study module they'll engage with powerful theoretical and declarative knowledge around effective explanations. They'll then attend a clinic where they will unpick ideas from the same domain. They'll talk about the reading they've done on explanations, and they'll see an expert teacher deliver a really brilliant model explanation. They'll then move on to that kind of planning and rehearsal part of the week, planning and rehearsing some of their own explanations. And finally, they will go into a coaching session with their mentor. Now, weekly mentoring accompanies the trainee on their journey through the curriculum, and regularly mentors will be discussing those same themes that have come up in clinics and study. The only thing that is worth noting here is that there is a difference here in the primary and secondary curriculum, with primary trainees attending 2 facilitated clinics each week, and that is not shown on this diagram, so I just wanted to flag that up. But I guess the bigger question is, why have we put so much time and effort into aligning the different components of our course? Well, our weekly components mean that the trainee gets consistent messaging from the different people they work with. And to ensure that mentors understand the curriculum, we've designed 10-minute weekly bursts of training which will be delivered through our learning management system, StepLab. And this will help mentors to align their weekly coaching discussions with our planned curriculum. We also provide mentors with a bank of powerful action steps that they can use in their instructional coaching sessions. And again, these will carefully align with our curriculum, and they will support trainees to transfer and adapt their theoretical learning in the classroom. From half-term 2, trainees will meet with their mentors every 2 weeks to do coaching on planning. And in these sessions, trainees and mentors will explicitly unpick ideas that have been discussed in subject studies clinics. For example, if the focus of the weekly clinic was modelling in maths, the mentor would be guided to focus their weekly discussion on this same area of the curriculum. Mentors and trainees would then work together to plan lessons that the trainee will deliver later that week. Essentially, we've designed a program where facilitators and mentors will be talking to trainees about the same things at the same time using the same language, and we strongly believe this reduces cognitive load for trainees, and reduces the mixed messaging that exists on many teacher training courses. So that's the last of the key features of our course. I'm just going to give you a moment to reflect here on some of the most important features of the course that we've covered today. I really hope that this session has explained our approach to ITT and why we've designed our course in this way. Ultimately, we're hoping that our programme will produce confident trainees with good habits who can really thrive in the schools they work in and serve disadvantaged communities across the country. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this recording. Please now take a couple of minutes to complete our short multiple choice quiz, which you can find hyperlinked in the Word document saved in the same folder on box as this presentation. Thank you ever so much and have a great day.